welcome back to Max Reaction. How are you doing today? Hopefully you're doing good. I am. Let me know how you're doing down below. But for now, we're going to react to a video called ASEAN Explained. And I'll be honest, I don't know anything about ASEAN, but I had a few subscribers say, hey, check out what ASEAN is. And I guess the Philippines is part of it, so let's see how it will affect the Philippines, or how it does affect the Philippines. But definitely go check the channel out. I'm going to leave the link down below. They make great content. I highly support them, and just go check out who created this video. They're great. Anyway, let's react.
Whenever you read into the international politics of Southeast Asia, people do that, right? Or even just where Southeast Asian countries are kind of involved. There is one little acronym that you may occasionally see. This one. But what exactly does it mean?
I have no idea.
What does it represent?
I don't know.
What are the goals behind it? What does it stand for? How do you even pronounce it?
Right?
This acronym is short for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations.
Makes sense.
And is pronounced ASEAN, or ASEAN. Now, I actually made a video about ASEAN a few years ago, but the thing is that it was pretty obviously a few years ago. But the people of Southeast Asians still deserve a basic explanation of this organization. So here I am yet again to provide it. ASEAN is a political organization made up of 10 nations in Southeast Asia. In geography now order, they are Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, as well as 2 observer states, being East Timor and Papua New Guinea. ASEAN is a regional organization whose purpose is to help facilitate intergovernmental relations and international trade between its member states.
Well, that's important.
The group was initially founded as the Association of Southeast Asia, or the ASA, in 1961, between Thailand, the Philippines, and Malaya. It was then turned into ASEAN in the ASEAN or Bangkok Declaration, which, get this, was a declaration signed in Bangkok.
Well, that was awesome that the Philippines was one of the OGs of it, one of the first 3, so we're learning stuff already.
More specifically, when the ASA's members were joined by Indonesia and Singapore, and was signed with the motivation of improving social progress, cultural development, and economic growth, as well as curbing the spread of communism. This was the Cold War, after all. Damn it, I suddenly can't get one video without mentioning Cold War. ASEAN's member states have a combined population of over 600 million and a combined GDP of $2.5 trillion.
A lot.
ASEAN is led by a Secretary General, chosen from one of its member states for a single, non-renewable 5-year term. ASEAN's headquarters are in Jakarta, Indonesia, and the organization operates under the ASEAN Charter. I
think that's important that it's, the head's 5 years, but it's non-renewable, so they have to bring a new one in. Because for me in politics, keeping the same person for 50 years, that's just not a good thing. We have politicians in the United States, that have been in politics for 40 years and they've done nothing. They just keep getting reelected somehow. So I think that's important.
Which is essentially the closest thing they have to a constitution, which calls for everything from goals of peace and cooperation to having their own flag, anthem, and an annual ASEAN Day on the 8th of August, to mark the date of the Bangkok Declaration, which is this Thursday if you want us to know. I guess I timed this video right.
Yeah, you did.
The organization also has foreign trade agreements with countries like China, Japan, India, and Australia, and some of its member states can be seen flying their flag and ASEAN's flag in places like their embassies.
That's cool.
So, from the sound of this, ASEAN is basically the EU of Southeast Asia, right?
Sounds like it, kind of. A little bit.
Not exactly.
Little bit.
The European Union is essentially a union between many of the countries of Europe that strongly integrates their populations and economies.
Right.
ASEAN is a little different, as they are a closely knit intergovernmental organization. This means that if someone from Bangkok were to work in Singapore, they would still have to apply for a work permit, go through customs and immigration at Changi Airport, exchange their Thai baht for Singapore dollars, and all the other stuff that usually comes with getting a job in a foreign country.
Makes sense.
However, they are kind of toying around with the idea of a new common currency based on the Asian currency unit, which is something called a currency basket between a bunch of different currencies around East Asia. Kind of like the European currency unit, which was the predecessor to the euro. But that's a story for another time.
I don't know if I like that or not.
ASEAN is not the EU, but it is still important for the individual nations of Southeast Asia
I gotta stop that for a second. I keep interrupting them, but I don't know if I like the thing about one currency, because when you have one currency, I think it's easier to control people. When each country have their own currency, you can't control people as much, in my opinion. I don't know. You might disagree, and if you do, fill me in why you disagree with me. It's just a thought that I have while I'm watching this.
As it effectively serves as a kind of union between the governments, especially in the wake of various world powers knocking on their doorstep. While many ASEAN member nations have good relations with China, and some with both China and the US, China, however, is making things a little difficult in the South China Sea.
Right.
The South China Sea is home to some of the world's most important sea lanes and a crap ton of oil and fish, and many ASEAN nations have overlapping claims in its oh so important waters. The Philippines claims these waters, Malaysia claims these, Brunei these, and Vietnam these, and then China just kind of does
all of
this. Regardless of whose side you're on, that's not going to make the other countries happy.
No.
Added in the Spratly Islands right in the middle, where countries can claim even more land for themselves and thus expand their territorial waters even further.
Right.
And you've got a geopolitical volcano that even a social studies YouTuber like me is way too cowardly to dive into, and will promptly distract you with something else. Hey look, visa policies. Every ASEAN member also grants visa-free access to every other ASEAN member for either 14 or 30 days. Except for citizens of Myanmar and Malaysia who both need an e-visa to visit each other's countries. In addition, many other nationalities can visit most or all of the ASEAN countries without a visa or with just an electronic visa. And so, intra-ASEAN travel has become incredibly commonplace. I mean, even this dork has done it. Tourism is an important source of revenue for these countries, especially as, according to ASEAN.org, around 109 million tourists visited the ASEAN countries in 2015. Indirectly and directly accountable for around 10% of their total annual revenue, and directly employing around 9 million people. For good reason, too, as Bangkok has become the most visited city in the world for a few years now.
Really?
With Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Phuket, Pattaya, and Bali not too far behind either.
I'm learning.
Although I didn't mention them in my superpowers video, ASEAN is still nevertheless an important and rapidly emerging power in today's world. Although there are still plenty of critiques to be made about its actions, or, in most cases, lack thereof. This is specifically including lack of human rights promotion in politically troubled areas, as well as environmental issues coming from intense pollution in other areas. Critics often call out the organization for being more talk than action for these reasons. Nevertheless, ASEAN is still a growing organization, and has big aims for the future, notably with establishing a kind of pan-ASEAN identity within the near future. Southeast Asia is most certainly set for an interesting future. So, I guess the best we can do right now is to just wait and see what unfolds. Now, Southeast Asia is fast becoming a major tourist destination, and for good reason, what with its distinct history and cultures. There's a reason I went there earlier this summer. The thing is, though, travel always requires preparation, which is why I'd recommend you check out Atlas en Route. Atlas en Route is a travel merchandise website that sells everything from backpacks to passport covers, and even scratch-off world maps for when you complete your trip. Atlas en Route hasn't sponsored this video, but they have given us an affiliate link, so anything you buy after going there specifically through the link in the description will help go towards supporting future KhAnnubis videos and getting you that one thing you may be missing for your next trip.
I have to check that out.
Thank you.
I'll definitely have to check that out. I'll leave a link to his channel so you guys can check it out as well. KhAnnubis, they make great videos. Definitely go check them out. I've actually sent messages to him say, hey, make some videos about the Philippines. So hopefully one day he will, and I know we'll support him in all the videos he would like to create about the Philippines. So this was Philippine related. I was requested for it. I learned a lot. I didn't know what it was. Now I have a good idea what ASEAN does, and it's cool that the Philippines was part of the OG, one of the original 3, and hopefully they improve it for those, you know, the things he said towards the end of the video, like human rights and the pollution part. But it sounds like it's important. It's important to trade within each other. I learned a lot. I love learning, and that's what watching KhAnnubis does, so go check them out. But anyway, those are my thoughts, those are my feelings. What did you think of the subject? How do you think it'll affect the Philippines? Anything you want to tell me about what you thought about the video and what you've learned, definitely comment down below. Recommend stuff for me to react to down below. But for now, Peace, love, happiness, spread around the world, and I'll see you next time.